Welcome back. This is Your World at 10. Now, with the ULIP regulatory battle between SEBI and IRDA yet to reach a resolution, the insurance regulator, that's IRDA, has issued new guidelines for ULIPs. The IRDA has made it mandatory for all pension products to have an insurance cover, and it will no longer allow the partial withdrawal for these products. Now, Vivek is here with experts from the insurance industry to tell us how these new guidelines affect the industry and what impact this move, a tactical one as I call it, will have on IRDA's standoff with SEBI. Vivek.
Thanks, Minka. Joining me today are two very eminent people involved with the insurance industry. A person who consults insurance companies in his capacity as a partner at Ernst & Young, Ashwin Parekh, who's joining us from London. Thanks very much, Ashwin, for joining us all the way from there. And Sanjeev Bajaj, who is the head of Bajaj Capital, one of the leading distributors. Sanjeev is also a CFP himself, so perhaps he'll be able to give us a perspective on the manner in which the impact of these new guidelines would be. But Ashwin, let me come to you first. How are you reading this? Is this a reaction after the kind of things that have happened? July 1st is when these norms come into effect, mind you. July 8th is the hearing before the Supreme Court. How are you reading these measures?
Well, to begin with, I must say that these are, even after, let's say, even after they've come after, these questions were raised by SEBI and in fact they're raised by market as well. But despite that, I would say these are very constructive, these are very positive measures. First and foremost is, gradually we've seen, this is something that's becoming true in the pension product space, particularly where, there will have to be a split between the accumulation phase of pension and the vesting period, that is after a person completes his working life. And that's the time when, really he has to rely on the annuity part of or the component. If you look at the entire NPS is merely talking about this. Now, what is being clarified, however, and I'm glad that this is clarified, that if the accumulation is still to be sold as a life insurance company product, then in that case it has to have life cover. So what it really means is that to my mind, it does two things. It meets with the order or the notice that, let's say, SEBI has really come out with. But at the same time, it meets with the life insurers' requirements as well. What will now happen is that they'll be able to participate in the accumulation phase with the proper life cover, of course. So the person is covered for his life during the accumulation phase. And then thereafter, when he's completed his working life and he's not accumulating, but he's vesting that amount into an annuity product, at that stage he gets the benefit of the annuity payouts, which happen when he's converted that into an annuity amount or an annuity
Ashwin, while I take your point that it's good that it's finally come at least, but don't you agree, now, all that you've explained, and you've been tracking this industry, not just in India, but globally for many, many years, this is so logical. Even in our own PPF, even in, any pension product, there is some kind of a restriction on withdrawals. It's taken us a decade, the regulator, to put in place a mechanism of this kind. And we actually had products so far in the market which didn't have even an insurance cover?
No, absolutely. I think this is, I totally agree that this is a very good move. See, because at the end of it, if the annuity, is going to be a product, and in going forward, longer life is going to be a larger threat to people than the death. And to that extent, I would say any correction in the pension products at this point in time is a good beginning, a good point of time when such corrections are essential. So I readily admit,
does the timing of this make you wonder that perhaps this whole fracas was a good thing for consumers, because at least it's led to this basic reform which should have happened long back?
No, it always is. See, basically reforms take place, particularly regulatory reforms take place strictly on account of the market requirements, Vivek. And also they take place on account of that, whenever, it's brought to the notice of the regulators, then the regulators will certainly have to take a cognizance and they will have to really make corrections for the better of the system. So there's no doubt there.
The current one, Ashwin, arises out of the fact that there is a public outcry today on the extent of mis-selling of these products.
No, well, actually this mis-selling is a bit of a sort of, overdue, I suppose, from every corner. It's like this. What you really do is you go out and create a market. Now, after you created the market, let's say, then there are others who really start wondering whether that particular product should have been a part of their market or should have been something else. And I'm not getting into the justification of that.
No, I'm not looking at a turf war issue here. I'm talking practically on the basis of investigations that we've done. These products have been missold in a very significant way. The issue is not about the product. The product is a global product. The fact is it's not been sold correctly. You're being a bit evasive today, Ashwin, if I may say so, but that's all right. You have a right to your opinion. But let's go across to Sanjeev Bajaj. Sanjeev, you're a financial planner yourself. You've been advocating for a very long time that these are products which are a 10 to 12 to 15-year horizon products. Yet at the same time, a large part of these products were being sold as 3-year products to people. They were not even having an insurance component. Now, for the first time, a circular which was issued a couple of weeks ago, the commission that is being charged on these products is at least going to be told to consumers. Insurance companies are not willing to come on record and talk about this circular, but they seem very disappointed. What they are saying is that consumers might go away from ULIPs in the short term till such time they understand whether they want to pay such hefty commissions at all or not. Because even at 12 or 13%, it's not a small amount, the commissions. Now they will know for the first time that this is the commission that I'm paying. How are you reading these guidelines which have come now?
Today's guidelines, let me say, are very, very landmark changes, because pension is a very important and a large component of the way life insurance is being sold in India. And pension is actually a very important component of financial planning as well as life insurance planning also. As you had very rightly said, it's not only the risk of dying too early, it's living too long too. And today's guidelines are going to totally redefine the way pension is sold. It is going to reduce the mis-selling on pension products by almost very, very significant amount. And I think the weaknesses that were there in products, and let me not say that these weaknesses were there for the last 8 years or 10 years, because a lot of these products with weaknesses may have got approved only 1 year back or 6 months back. So the regulator has been pretty proactive, and the change started in January 2010 with the first set of ULIP guidelines coming in, and I feel there are some more ULIP guidelines which will come in, which will make the things much more stricter. But let me tell you about today's guidelines. One, pension was being sold without life cover as a pure investment for 3 years. Now that won't happen. It will be for minimum 5 years. There were some people who were misguiding investors and telling them that you can surrender the policy and take back the money tax-free. Now that was actually a wrong statement to give to a customer. Now at least that won't happen. They have clearly defined that even if you surrender a pension policy, then you can only take back 30% of the amount as accumulated value. Rest 70% you would still have to buy annuity. So that would mean that an agent has to explain this plan very well to the customer, and he will only the customer who needs this type of a solution would buy the plan. So today it redefines it. There were some weaknesses which were being misutilized by some wrong elements, but I think this will bring them down to a significant level.
Do you believe that now that in the short term at least, now that these measures are going to come in, a lot of the distributor community may not see that much value in, or success, if I may say so, in pushing these products, especially those who are resorting to mis-selling? So could there be a slight dip for some time till such time the market matures to its next stage?
See, I think there are people out there, for them selling life insurance is their only business. Now, since they don't have the opportunity to mis-sell, I don't think they are going to stop selling, because at the end of the day they have to earn a living for themselves and their family. I think this is going to force them to become financial planner. This is going to force them to learn how to sell the right solution. So I feel, it will create some pressure for probably 1 or 2 months, 3 months. But after that, we'll be a much more stronger industry.
All right, last question to you, Ashwin. Why do you think insurance companies are so upset about these guidelines? I mean, it's good for consumers. So why are insurance companies sulking right now?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I haven't talked to them. I mean, I must admit.
I have.
But personally, no, Vivek, certainly you would have, I'm sure. But you know what? The point is slightly different. The point is that the accumulation and the annuity part at one point in time, before the whole concept of PFRDA or the pension program was conceived, was completely based on the fact that life insurance companies were only allowed to develop such products and offer it. There was no market at that point in time. There were very few people were offering accumulation as a part of the larger pension program. So Vivek, you must really analyze some of these things before we really jump to any conclusion of either selling or mis-selling. See, you have to sell first to mis-sell. I mean, I've always believed that if a product was going to be sold on its own, that is, if it was going to be purchased, if it was going to be bought, then perhaps, you will agree with me that we would have had by now lakhs and lakhs of customers for the new pension program. We've seen that there are only, in a nation of 1,100 crore people, we have just about 4,000 to 5,000 NPS accounts yet. So, I mean, we have to recognize the fact that to create market, you need selling to begin with. You have to recognize that the correction Sanjeev talked about, and I'm totally accepting Sanjeev's proposition that these corrections were very essential. But let's not underline, let's not underpin, quite clearly or negate whatever work life insurance industry has done in order to promote pension products.
Not at all. There's no intention to negate. All I'm saying is that these are norms which perhaps should have come long back. It's a good thing they finally come. Nobody's saying why have they come now. It's just that the timing seems a little, strange or prompted by what has happened over the last month in terms of an ugly spat.
No, certainly, but that's what progress is all about. That's what progress is all about. If a certain thing is pointed out to the regulator, whether it's done in a certain manner or by way of confrontation or, whichever way you look at it, at some point in time, I always maintain that we are a very mature financial services sector. And the regulators also do take up a very mature approach to some of these things. So I'm very confident that we're going to get so many more changes coming out, both in the mutual fund industry, even in banking, we are going to see a lot of corrections happening. but I'm glad in insurance also, we are really coming across some very good measures, some very good reforms coming in.
All right, Ashwin. All right, Sanjeev. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Well, Menka, as you heard, sometimes it takes a crisis to push through a certain reform. We've seen a rather ugly spat going on between two regulators. It's still on, mind you. The jury is not out on that one. July 8th is when the Supreme Court hears the petition again. But meanwhile, a very big set of reforms as far as consumers are concerned. Good news for them. Hopefully, there will be a bit more in the coming days to see.
All right, Vivek, we are watching the space very, very closely. Vivek Law there with insurance industry experts on the new guidelines for ULIPs. Time for a quick break on